You're about to watch a conversation between me, Mette Koppelaar, and my coach, Catherine Hale. And it's a part of an actual coaching session that I received in which the Ambassadors for Humanity program is born, or at least the name is kind of born. And I like to show it because it's quite an unpolished conversation, you know, because it's not meant for publication or anything like that. But then what it is that I speak very passionately about the kind of bigger reason for why I do this work. Because a lot of my work is about helping people accessing their full range of humanity on an individual level. So to step into their authenticity, into their vulnerability, into their aliveness, into kind of living how they want to live, which sounds simple, but is not. But then there's a bigger dimension to this work that I don't often speak about, and this is the societal, political dimension. And I think that that these kinds of freedoms that we currently enjoy in certain parts of the world are always at the risk of being lost, and they're always under attack. So I deeply believe that when we do this work and when we live our life in more freedom, and when we try to cultivate a world in which others can do this too, yeah, it is a political act. And it's a political act that kind of complements activism. So I believe activism is important to stand up for certain groups or certain causes. But then activism is often paired with some kind of polarity. And I think complementary to activism, there is standing up for humanity and connection, and for loving each other, even when there are differences, and for trying to find ways in which we can be open, even to the people that appear to be on the other side of, for example, our political spectrum. And in the Ambassadors for Humanity program, it's not an inherently political program. In the end, it's more about inviting humanity in your own life and inviting humanity into your own social circles, your own families, your own communities, without being dogmatic about that. But the underlying meaning of it, I think, is deeply, deeply important for the continuation of our individual humanity and our humanity, our collective humanity as a species. And that's what I talk about in this video. So if you're curious about joining, or if you're considering to support us in any way, then please watch this video and you'll get a sense of why I think this is so incredibly important. Thank you.
I'm curious how you're feeling about the why.
So in my book, I wrote a sentence, or I'm working with this concept which I call clean freedom. It's a new phrase that has come to me, and it's really about like stepping into more self-expression, experiencing yourself more fully, but not at the expense of others, but in a way that it invites and creates the same for others.
Mm.
So it's not about gaining power,
Mm.
but it's about a lifestyle where you spread freedom.
Mm.
And this, I think this is what I really deeply care for.
Mm.
And I want to empower people to step into their freedom, but not get absorbed in their own individual experience of that, but actually seeing how this all corresponds to the bigger picture.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm interested about the piece you said about gaining power. Yeah, I know power is one of those like really kind of like edgy words. Because for me, to have freedom is powerful, right? I need to be in my power to have freedom.
Yeah.
So there's like personal power, like status power. There's like the different kind of like um expressions of power, but power is necessary to create, right? You've had a journey of coming more into your power to be able to do the work you're doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the clean
Mm.
interpretation of the word power.
Mm.
It's not power over,
Yeah, yeah,
it's power to,
yeah. Power with.
power with.
Yeah.
And you know, so so I have these 8 lenses that I use for my work. And the first 4 are honor your thoughts, honor your emotions, honor your desires, and honor your body.
Mm.
And they are a lot about taking space and expressing yourself and so on.
Mm.
But if I look at for example the first lens of that, which is honor your thoughts,
Mm.
I'm like, these days people are puking opinions all over the internet and each other, and we're doing a little too much of that. If you look at the social media these days, it's not honoring your thoughts in a, hey, this is what I think and I want to know what you think. It's a, "Bleh, take
Yeah,
this,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
and I'm against that person and fuck you here and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they are wrong."
That's polarization.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
polarization galore.
So
And
people aren't able to speak into the nuance and the complexity.
yeah,
That's a trauma response, right? That polarization.
mm, yeah, it's also, how would you, it's like, would you say it's like a fight, kind of?
It's a fight response, but it's like it's the inability, it's either this or that. So there's no space for gray. So it's like, either I'm the persecutor or the persecuted. And it's like, well, no,
Yeah,
there's some nuance here,
yeah,
you know, that's not quite how it is. And actually, like, what does our culture need right now? It needs people standing in that space of being able to hold the nuance.
exactly.
It's like,
Yeah,
what is this middle ground here?
yeah. And like for example, in Germany, Berlin is very leftist, right?
Hmm.
East Germany is completely AfD, which is the far right party.
Oh, really?
All of East Germany is far right dominated by now.
Wow.
And the one dot that stands out from that, if you see these election maps, the one dot that stands out is Berlin. But the moment I leave this city, I'm in far right territory, right?
I mean, it's the same where I live.
Yeah.
Similar, similar.
But Berlin is very leftist.
Yeah.
And there, so if I'm in a nightclub and I go to a toilet stall, you see all the stickers, right?
Mm.
And it's all against Nazis, fuck, all cops are bastards, against,
Mm.
against, against, against.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And what I'm with is like, yes, can you voice what you think is needed for the world? And can you keep an open mind even
Yes.
to those people? Because if we start distancing, the more we distance ourselves from them, the more we feed into the overall dynamic of
Yeah. Separation.
separation. Yes.
Hmm.
So if I then say clean freedom and I say, yes, honor your thoughts, say what's important to you, learn to
Mm.
phrase that, learn to make it important, and be open to where other people think differently,
Mm.
where you might can add nuance, or where you can
Yeah.
question your own beliefs or wonder why you believe this particular thing, and if
Mm.
something else could also be true.
Mm.
And yeah, so this is the kind of dual awareness that I hope to cultivate. And that's what I mean with spreading freedom rather than gaining power.
Mm.
It's not just more power for my political beliefs,
Yeah.
power for my group,
Mm.
but how can we actually spread freedom and openness and vulnerability and authenticity so that we can actually connect
Mm.
more broadly?
Mm.
And how can I apply that in my life, and how can I invite that in my social circles, whether it's my work environment or my friends groups or my family or
Mm.
and so on. Yeah, yeah, this is what I care what I care for.
Mm. Yeah, feeling it, and it's yeah, celebrating you, honoring you in that because it's so needed.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that when you think about this concept of clean freedom, like it's not a binary concept, of course, but so many of our freedoms, uh, especially the material ones, they come always at the expense of
Mm.
the devices we're using to have this Zoom call right now.
Yeah,
Somewhere down the line, a kid
yeah,
is mining in a
yeah,
mineral thing in God
yeah,
knows where and
yeah.
might die, you know? We
Mm.
we
Mm.
accept that as part of this
Mm.
equation.
Mm.
Um, and it's also so systemic that there's
Yes,
almost no escaping from it.
yes.
You know, I can go to the sustainable supermarket if I'm privileged enough.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
So,
exactly.
Um, so so interestingly enough, if you then see, okay, where can then this clean freedom be found? It's in the immaterial, or
Mm.
where it is, but the non-material. It's in human connection. It's in feeling our
Mm.
feelings. It's in touch. It is in
Yeah.
which at the same time has the benefit that it offers this possibility for this clean freedom,
Mm-hmm.
and it's actually much more nurturing than
Mm.
all these, capitalist society imposed materialistic ways of having satisfying lives, right? Just fucking doom scrolling. You know?
Buying the latest shiny thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's all a trap anyway.
Mm.
Um, so interestingly enough, it's a bigger frame
Mm.
around what I was already doing. Um, and at the same time, the added thing that has now emerged for me, especially in these past few years, is that I see how much this freedom is. I've always taken this freedom for granted. From the
Mm.
Netherlands being white, male perceived,
Mm-hmm.
healthy body, middle
Mm.
class, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
All the fucking privileges. I've
Yeah.
never had to question this freedom. And now, partially because I'm more fluid in my identity, but also because of the fucking global dynamics that are happening, it's finally become very, very clear to me that this freedom is under attack left, right, and center. Um,
Absolutely.
and I recently reread 1984, and and it's all about doublethink and mind control and all of it. And it's like, we're not that far from it. People in Germany have faced various consequences for posting the wrong content on social media. In the Netherlands, the police has been paying house visits to peaceful protesters, asking them how long they plan to continue protesting, which was recorded by a former judge who received such a visit.
You are kidding me.
If it's pro-Palestine, sure. In Germany, the biggest political parties want to pass a law that if you have dual citizenship, that they can revoke that because you liked a post which calls people out for bombing hospitals.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
so the whole definition of terrorism and the definition of defending and all these
Mm.
kinds of words, right? They are just, and we see it in the US extremely, right? Like the whole Harvard thing and the Columbia University thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we see how Trump can now actually go across the border and demand that companies and governments abroad end their equity
Mm.
programs.
Mm. Mm.
I don't know if you've seen that, but he
Haven't
does
seen
that.
that.
He's given organizations worldwide a 5 days notice to end their diversity programs, and
Mm.
otherwise they can no longer be a supplier to the United States government,
Mm.
which are often very big contracts.
Yeah.
So he's reaching, the arms are very long.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I've seen it with a client of mine who's got contacts in the humanitarian sector,
mhm.
and suddenly all the funding cut. No, like all of her colleagues are like no longer have a job because the funding from the US has just been it's just been taken away, completely revoked.
Yeah. Um, but then, of course, what can we do against these global forces? It is too big to stand up with.
Mm,
But at least in some scale in our life,
mm,
we can practice and cultivate this freedom and learn how to spread
mm,
it.
mm,
Um, so this is actually now when I speak about it, when I hear myself speak about it and I talk about this ambassadors of authenticity thing, it's
mm.
so much more than great birthday parties, It's like, but yeah, but
Mm,
it's where it happens, It's where we preserve this level of freedom when we don't know what's gonna happen with also with I'll wrap this up, but with like government control,
mm.
like what are these social credit systems, right? That you have in
Yeah, yeah,
China.
yeah.
In the Netherlands, some years ago, there was a proposal. What do you call it? Like when they propose a law in Parliament,
Hmm.
a motion,
Yeah, yeah.
um, where they said, "Hey, let's agree that in the Netherlands we will not implement a social credit system like in China."
Mm.
Which means that if you buy the wrong book, your internet speed goes down, for example.
I know. It's like,
And then one smart politician in the Netherlands said, "Hey, how about we agree we're not gonna do that here?" Didn't make it.
wow,
It's like, well, we want to keep the option open. And then I was like,
wow,
well, probably it's not gonna happen. But nowadays I'm like, why wouldn't it happen? You know?
wow, wow.
And add that this is why I'm always talking about AI and stuff, because add to this, Israel is investing hundreds of millions in AI bots that go around the internet and influence public opinion. So you think you're talking in a comment section to a human, but it's just a bot, a government
Mm.
bot doing its
Wow.
worldwide propaganda. Now add to that Neuralink that at some point we're gonna all have chips in our fucking brains, you
Mm.
know? So I'm no longer like by the end of last year, I was collapsed under all this.
Mm,
And thanks
mm,
to our lovely nervous system regulation, I'm not.
mm, mm.
But I am with this scenario for humanity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, as you were speaking, it's like you were talking about creating spaces where people get to experience freedom, but it's actually creating spaces where people get to experience their humanity,
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's
and
something.
that gets stripped away for all of it in all of the ways that you've just described.
Yeah, maybe it should be ambassadors for humanity. That could be yes, that's the name.
There you go.
Thank you. Yeah. At some point, I consider to name my program just Humanity.
Mm,
Mm. But Ambassadors for Humanity, I love it.
mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
oh, yes, this is good. And if I tie this kind of Y to it,
Mm,
uh, oh, this is nice.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, so it's also quite aligned with, for example, David had his Facing Collapse program.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
in that direction.
And, just to say, like you've just described, how you've been experienced it and you were in collapse. A lot of people who are meeting this are in collapse because they don't have the capacity to meet, it's just like it's too much. Of
Yeah.
course it's too much. Um, so you need to be kind of consider that. Um, you want to be, my sense is the people you want to invite into your year-long program are not the people in collapse. They're the people who want to lead people out of that,
Yeah.
right? That you are supporting people to kind of take the path that you've taken. And so that it's like, and there's more people who can hold this, not like pulling people out of collapse who've got kind of stuck in the treacle. And it's like, whoa, I
Yeah.
don't think that's where your energy needs to be spent.
Yeah, I'm reaching the people who can do that.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is like this is activism, what you're describing. Your work is activism.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But it's activism where I try to not focus on the concrete issues, but a level deeper.
Totally. Because you can go round in those issues forever.
Yeah.
And getting into burnout, which is what I see with a lot of people I know who are activists.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people channel anger, for example, into going to demos, but
100%.
rather they should be regulating.
Yes.
I think it's very important to protest against social injustice, but not to use it as a way of regulating.
100%. There's a lot of activists in the town where I live, environmental activists and
Yeah.
political activists, and yeah, who are
Yeah.
not taking such good care of themselves, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you're in that middle, you're in that place of wanting to create like that middle space, that nuanced space that isn't that and it's not that.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we do all of this differently?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I think this is,
Feel really inspired talking to you or hearing you speak.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is really when we really get to my why.
Mm. Mm.
Mm.
Yeah. You're responding like you do to your environment, highly perceptive, like something here needs to be different. And what's the way that I can make this different? Which
Yeah.
isn't that, and it isn't that.
Yeah. Okay.
Woo! Goosebumps.
Nice.
Mm.
Hmm.